how your character fits into this? A little bit more about who you're playing?
I play the ex-wife of Joe Carroll, who is our serial killer, played by James, and the I don't want to say ex-girlfriend, but she does have a rather complicated past with Ryan Hardy's character, or with Kevin's character, Ryan Hardy, as well. So there's sort of in the midst of a sort of love-hate triangle.
Your character is the only character, according to James Purify, that he's ever loved. Yet at the same time, I keep feeling that he loves to destroy beauty. He loves to destroy things that he admires. Will we eventually see your character as his second huge masterpiece in and of itself?
I think he would like that. I think if he had his druthers, she would be his second masterpiece. But alas, because Ryan Hardy is on the case, that gets foiled a bit. I don't know if I buy the whole he's the only woman or she's the only woman who's ever loved, because he doesn't really demonstrate that all that much. So I think that might just be for show.
All right. Do you feel that your character ever noticed any, we have the flashback where she remembers when they're together and I'm having a baby and there's love and adoration between the two. But do you feel your character, will we see flashbacks of your character realizing that maybe all isn't kosher with her husband?
There are some flashbacks with Joe. They're very short, so you get, I think the idea is you get snippets. There's never any overt moment where she suspects that something is not right, but there are sort of clues along the way, and you get very short, quick flashes as to not give too much away.
And they always say that there's a fine line between serial killers and cops, and now you were married to a serial killer. You dated a cop, and this was brought up in the panel as well. What do you feel that says about your character?
She's getting better, I guess. I mean, it's a vast. An alcoholic cop is a vast improvement over a serial killer. So she's getting there, but there's obviously something in her past that dictates. There's a lot of blindness on her end when it comes to men relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. She's not good at that.
But at the same time, your character is incredibly smart and intelligent. So what would you think about your backstory? Or what did you... Here we go. I'm trying to formulate the question as I speak, and that isn't smart. But what did you sit down and think about for the backstory for your character, just because she's very smart and together?
Well, I did do a character history because Kevin did one, and I felt like I needed to do one if he did one. And the problem with doing a character history on a show that incorporates a lot of flashbacks is that you're wrong. You don't realize it until you get an episode and you're like, oh well, I guess mom is in the picture. Okay, well, so a lot of what I came up with, I don't know if it's applicable, and it was a little tricky for me because serial killers often don't marry, and when they do, the women are very dissimilar to Claire in absolutely every way, in intellect and mental stability and past relationships, familial background, whatever. So I'm sort of coming from a place that doesn't really exist in terms of like tropes or archetypes or whatever. So a lot of the research I did, I had to kind of throw out the window, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of research anyway, so my instinct was right to not do it in the first place. He's the one who tripped me up.
Did you have to do any research into like the mentality of the serial killer?
No, because I feel like the less information I had, and it's not me being lazy, the less information I had, the more that sort of mirrored where the character was coming from, because it was seemingly completely clueless as to what was going on. So I felt like if I had too much information, it would sort of betray the sort of psychic space that she occupied.
But at the same time, there's an old saying, when you gaze into the abyss, the abyss gazes back. So being in a relationship with this person, did not some of that darkness rub off on her, or would you say no?
Well, perhaps, but even more of a question that I have is it possible that she didn't know? I mean, and how realistic is that? That there wasn't a part of her that, thank you, that was clued into something, albeit, perhaps on a very subconscious level. There's no way she could have been living in the same space as this person who has that kind of energy and not pick up on something. So, which is similar to what yeah.
Obviously, flashbacks are a huge part of the show. How much do they tell you guys ahead of time before you sort of get the script in terms of, this is how you and Ryan hooked up for the first time? And
we get no information. There are a lot of ways that helps, but every flashback is a new revelation, and again, a lot of my own personal history has had to get thrown away. I had thought that she grew up without a mother. There's a scene where I say, if my mom calls, tell her I'm napping. So, none. We get very little, and I know that even some of the flashbacks that we've shot are either not going to make it in that episode, or they've been cut or moved or whatever. So the good thing about the nature of them is that they can kind of get dispersed throughout. They can be moved around.
And your character, obviously, you look at it as being very complex. Because obviously she left her husband at one point. She may still love him, but she divorced him because of what he did.
Right.
Which is the same thing to do.
Sure.
Is it difficult playing all those different layers, especially when you don't know what's going to be happening, and you as an actor, like, you may not know if you are still.
One,
no spoilers.
Yeah, no, I know. I gotta answer without a spoiler. And
you can't.
I really can't. I personally, I don't think there's any love there for him anymore. After, and this is a little effed, but I like it. I think it has less to do with the fact that he's killed people and more to do with the fact that there's that major betrayal there. So I think there's some psychological issues going on with her because it's more about the betrayal than anything else. And that right there opens up the whole can.
Excuse me, this is the last question.
Do you?
Go ahead.
No, I've already asked enough.
Is it hard to keep, you were mentioning about the fact that they're sort of chopping and changing these flashbacks and putting them in different places. As an actor, does that make it difficult to sort of keep track of the timeline for your character? Because you want to have a very strong idea of your character in your head at all times.
Yeah, continuity's been a big issue. Just making sure, I mean, on any show, because everything shoots out of order, but especially with something that has flashbacks, because you need to know exactly where we are in the timeline, what happened before, what happened after. And they've been really good about making sure that we know exactly where we are in the relationships. So they take care of us.